Oh, mine's done. Good morning, mob family. All right, all right, all right. Let's get this show started. All right, if I look extra pink today, it's not my makeup. It's that I was training earlier with those crazy ass kettlebells that you saw. How's everyone doing today? Let me see. Let me see who's here. Good morning, Chris Mendoza. Good morning. Good morning, Connie. Good morning, Mary Beth. Warren, good morning. You sent me a post and I haven't been able to answer it. Can you PM it back to me? Because I don't know where it is exactly. So, but I do want to answer it because you had some great ideas and then I want to answer those. Good morning, Mark. Let's see. Good morning, everyone on YouTube. Good morning, Linda. Hello, Paige. And good morning, Heather. So far, that's everyone who's here. Okay. Because we've moved to the Ben Peaches page, it takes a little longer for people to kind of find where we are, but we put the notice up and hopefully everyone can locate where we are. And the YouTubers, you guys know where we are, so it's easy. How is everyone doing? I hope you're all doing well today. Let's see. I think we're finally, the AC's on because we're finally kind of in the midst of summer's trying to creep in slowly into the area. But the AC is mostly on because my body's overheating from all the training I was doing this morning. So yeah. Okay. So how's everyone doing today? I am in the midst of lots of. Did I say good morning to you, Dolly? Good morning, Dolly. She's right here next to me. Show your hand. So we're
good morning.
Stick a hand in. Stick a hand in so they know.
I'm just a voice.
No, stick your hand in.
I can't.
Do you want me to turn the camera to you?
I'm
just go like this.
Barely.
She's here. She's here. Right there.
Sure. So says you.
So says I. Or I'm an amazing ventriloquist. So as I'm speaking, I can throw my voice over here and make it sound completely different. But she's here. All right. Yes, we're hot, then we're cold, and then we're hot again. I know it's crazy. You guys are getting a storm and kind of in the middle of the country, so be careful out there. All right. Okay. Let's see. Oh, wow, a lot of people are here already. I'm glad. So that means like the new link is working, babe. So we are all systems go and full speed ahead. Let's see. Okay. So let me do the shout outs real quick. Shout out to everyone on YouTube. Shout out to YouTube. Hello, everyone on YouTube. So we are at Ben Peaches Publishing. We have, I don't know how many followers we have on YouTube. I know we don't have 1,000 yet, right? No. Chris knows. Chris, how many followers we have on YouTube? You are a resident technomancer. You would know. We're trying to reach 1,000 followers. So we appreciate if you could help us like, subscribe, and share the channel. We're at 351. Awesome. So like, subscribe, and share the channel as much as you can, and let people know that we have a channel, and we'd like as many people to come on. So we start with 1,000, and then we'll go to 10, and then we'll go to 100, and so forth and so on, and we'll have a huge viewership, influence, and help other people find us and share our stories and talk about Monty Strong and other fun stuff. So that's the purpose of that. So help us out. Help us get to 1,000. That's our first goal. That'll be amazing. And we're at Bitten Peaches, so you can find us there. We're also on Instagram, at Bitten Peaches. Again, I'm sensing a trend here. So on Instagram, did I put anything recently up on Instagram? Oh, I recently on my personal Instagram, I put those monster bells. Here, let me put the link because Dolly gave me the link. That's the link for Bitten Peaches on YouTube. So please share that link if you can. It'd be great. It would really help us out. I really appreciate it. On Instagram, we're at Bitten Peaches again, and I try to put up excerpts, but I've also been in the middle of we'll get to it in a moment, but I'm in the middle of writing projects, so it's been hard to kind of keep track of what I'm doing on Instagram and how to put the excerpts up. But this is our Instagram link. If you're not on Instagram following us, please follow us on Instagram. It'd be awesome. I don't know how many people we have on Instagram. It's not that. It's I don't know. I have to check the numbers on Instagram. All right. Anything new in Zazzle? Lead designer?
Nothing new.
Nothing new in Zazzle. Our Zazzle store has grown from the days when I was putting up designs there. It's exploded with stuff. So you can go to our Zazzle. We have it's at Zazzle M&S EMANDES. I always do that every week. I think at this point I can stop doing that, but Zazzle M&S. We have a bunch of M&S swag there. So go get your swag. So much fun stuff there. Thanks, Warren. I appreciate it. Here's our Zazzle link. So use the reference numbers so it helps our analytics and we can kind of keep track who's going there and what's happening where. And yeah, if you want, it's not just M&S swag. It's basically, I mean, we don't even have like, it's an everything swag store. Do we have something for like, I don't want to say Orlando verse because it's not really the Orlando verse, the Sanchez verse. No, that's I don't know what to call it, guys. M&S World, but it's not really the M&S World because we've got we've got a lot of stuff there.
You can put your picture on mugs if you want.
I don't want to put my picture on mugs. Oh, scare people. No. I'm thinking we have to come up with something that kind of encompasses everything. It's not just M&S, even though M&S is the driving. What is it? M&S is the engine, right? The trunk of the tree. But it's more than just M&S. It's everything. So I don't know what to call it. We have to come up with something. I'm open to ideas, Mob. So yeah, what do we call this world? Peach's World? I like Peach's World. Peach's Paradise or something like that.
Gangster's Paradise.
No, not Gangster's Paradise. So, the Sanchez Archive. No, that sounds a little too. It doesn't sound. Yeah, it sounds like. I don't know. We have to think about it. Do we have Iker swag? Mark wants to know.
Iker, we do not.
Oh, how do we not have Iker swag?
Because it's Iker.
What do you mean because it's Iker?
He's too cool.
Iker's too cool for school. Yeah, I don't know. We don't have Iker swag.
We don't have Iker.
How can we not have Iker swag? Iker's like one of the coolest characters out there. Iker needs swag. Yeah, I don't know. Your designers are dropping the ball over at Zazzle, at M&S, at the M&S store. MoB World. I like MoB World, Amos. But then we sound like mafias, gangsters. The MoB World. We do need some Iker swag. I totally agree, Mark. Hellhounds rule. Yeah, but Hellhounds are so generic sometimes that it's hard to. We're gonna have to do something that's like, yeah, I don't know. Let's let it simmer and percolate a bit. But we definitely have to, do something because, yeah, and we need Iker swag.
Shame on them.
Yeah, like see, Hellhounds rule doesn't cover. Let's say Iker. Iker doesn't really connect to Hellhounds rule, Or I can't believe we don't have Iker swag.
What kind of designer you have? You need to fire them.
I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to at that next evaluation.
How did you even hire them?
I don't know.
Was there an interview
I think there's some nepotism involved or something.
Shame.
I think they knew someone who knew someone who knew someone.
Maybe even more.
Oh man, no Iker swag. I call that a fail. That's a fail. All right, so yeah, we'll get some Iker swag for sure at some point, definitely, because I want Iker swag. I guess like such a cool character, and the covers are amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No.
Thanks for pointing that out, Mark. Totally appreciate it.
I'll make sure to talk to HR.
Yeah, we'll have a word with HR and our designers, and we'll crack that whip and get them into shape. All right, so I want to give a huge shout out to we have new patrons, so Aaron Matthews and Brent Lowe. Huge shout out to them for joining our Patreon. And if you haven't joined Patreon, please consider doing so. It's just giving us that extra support, and you get a lot. I mean, you get so much cool. Like, can you give a quick rundown of what they get if they join Patreon?
Well, they get the early access to the chapters.
Yeah, early access to the chapters.
The quarterly stories.
I'm gonna have to write this down somewhere. Yeah, quarterly stories, early access to the chapters, And the higher tiers get
The higher tiers also get audiobooks when we have them.
right. You get your
And
audiobooks.
you can also have codes for the past audiobooks.
Awesome. So they get there's a lot to get.
We're
Man.
still working on other stuff.
Yeah.
which
Okay.
we
So
haven't.
it's definitely worth it, and you also get the exclusive
And you
Patreon
also
stories.
get the, at the $10 level and more, you
Right.
receive the ebooks.
What tier is a
You receive
$10?
the ebook.
What tier is that? Sorcerer or what?
Yes.
At Sorcerer and above. So we go by the tiers. So at Sorcerer and above, you get the ebooks, right?
Yeah. Every release.
And if you go to
the new releases, you get the new releases plus early access.
and if you come in at the Arch Oracle tier, right? Which what is it, $1,000? At the Arch Oracle tier, I'll go to your house and read you the latest Monty.
Arch Oracle.
I know. At the Arch Oracle tier, I'll go to your house and read you the latest Mountain Strong story as a bedtime story every night. One chapter a night at Arch Oracle. How's that? We don't have an Arch Oracle, but yeah. The Nightwalker cover was amazing, Paige. I would put it. It's great, but different to the Mountain Strong. But it's a whole different feel. Like the last Mountain Strong, the Immortal cover. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so it's like way out of here. But the Nightwalker covers have this kind of ambiance, this feel. They kind of convey a certain feel. It gives you like a noir kind of almost horror, but it's an interesting combination. It's definitely like urban, but it's kind of scary, but at the same time it's edgy. It's a great cover, that Nightwalker cover. That would make great swag, the Nightwalker cover. I want it on a shirt. I'm gonna get that on a shirt and just rock. Just what I'm gonna start doing on the MoB. I'm gonna start rocking book cover shirts. That's what I'm gonna start doing. Bam, like this. Bam. Okay.
We'll put that too. The BAM logo.
We have BAM. Yeah.
Bangers and Mash.
Oh, Bangers and Mash. Yeah. I should write another Bangers and Mash story at some point. Welcome, Rico. You're in. You sound like you were on a mission. I'm in. All right. It's not late. You're here, and that's what matters. Okay, let's continue. So thank you to our patrons. You guys are awesome. You guys go above and beyond the normal support that everyone gives. You guys are fantastic. I mean, the entire MoB. I always say this. People think I'm just paying lip service, but I'm appreciative to each one of you. The MoB, you guys are fantastic, and you allow me to do this, and it's like you have no, because it's one individual, you may think, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm just part of this MoB, whatever. It's important. It's a big deal to me, and it's a big deal to our collective. So I want to just give a huge thank you to all of you for being amazing, and to the patrons, you've taken it a step further, and you support through being part of the tiers. I mean, it's incredible. I don't have words for you guys. It's like the shredders. The shredders don't know how amazing they are when they take the book and they take it apart and they shred it to to pieces, and then they give me insights and notes and humor, and they hunt down those dreaded commas. You guys are they're incredible, and I always it's the thank you that I have for the shredders, the thank you that I have for the MoB. I really do lack the words, which is weird because I'm a writer. I should be able to find the words, but it's hard to express how appreciative, how grateful, how thankful I am for each of you, because I am very cognizant and aware, and many of you have been here when we started. When we started, there were 56 people in the MoB, and it was tough. Everything was tough, much harder. It's a lot easier now. It's not completely easy, but it's a lot easier. Like reviews, having people get involved. It's so much different when you've established yourself a little as a writer. I'm going to be giving a talk soon. Can we discuss that, the InkersCon thing?
Yes, of course.
I'm going to be giving a talk soon for InkersCon. It's virtual because I'm not traveling anywhere right now, but it's all on branding, and so I'll make sure you guys get a recording of it, like get a link so you can see it. But it's really, I was kind of thinking about our trajectory as the MoB and as me as an author, and how in the beginning there really wasn't anything really cohesive, and now there is something cohesive. Even the fact that we can come up with something like, the MoB World, or there's something there that now is just kind of, I don't want to say a reality, but it's a created world that we share and that we're all an active part of, which is amazing. So the talk that I'm giving is about branding and how we brand as authors and why it's important. And like if I tell you guys meat is life, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. If I say peaches, or yeah, I mean, just saying meat is life, everyone knows. Everyone in the mob knows, and anyone who's read Monty and Strong knows. And I get it. I get PMs. It's the craziest thing. I get PMs just meat is life. I'm like, okay, because it has such a resonance and it connects and people know. And so, and that's part of branding. Same thing like the covers of the books. And this is getting more into kind of like the author side and the writer side and the business side of writing. Like every cover of my books, and especially in the Monty and Strong, you see the endless knot. It's not an accident. It's because it creates a certain recognition. So when you see that cover, you can see, oh, it's a new Monty and Strong. Let me just pick it up, And meat is life. Yes, Amos, I agree. So it's a really important thing. I try to tie it in because I come from a graphics background, so graphic design background. You learn that when you create logos, and if you look at Nike and you see the swoosh, you know exactly what that is. You don't have to decipher it, and that's basically what I was trying to do with Monty and Strong. And if you notice, all my series have some kind of logo that ties it up, So it's important. And I'll be discussing that. It's not that long of a talk. What is it, about an hour? So it's an hour. And it'll be a short talk. Well, I guess that's a short talk because we do an hour, longer than an hour just here. But this is our Seinfeld show. It's a show about nothing. So it'll be talking about branding. So what is branding and why is branding important for authors? And then I'll let you guys get the link once we have it up and ready. And we're kind of putting all the different moving pieces together, So that's that. We don't have any new authors to promote today, but just, the saying, right? We support our indie authors. So if you have an indie author and if you discovered an indie author, what author did I just pick up? Oh, I just picked up Benedict Jacta's latest book, which I just started it. So I don't know. I mean, I like Benedict Jacta with Alex Veris. This was fantastic. But the latest book is An Inheritance of Magic. And he just released that and the second one. So it looks really interesting. I've read like maybe a chapter so far because I've been busy doing other things. But that's the latest book that I've gotten. It's not on sale or special, but if Benedict Jacta is a great writer, you should pick him up if you like him. So I'll L3 it and I'll put it in the mob. You guys can get it. I like it. I like the Alex Veris series. It was very good. I enjoyed his main character, but Benedict Jacta is an acquired taste for some people. So, but I'll definitely put it up. Yeah, Rico, I thought it's like a Seinfeld show. This is our show about nothing, and also, but here's the thing, and this was the genius of the Seinfeld show. If you're gonna create a show about nothing, that also means that you're creating a show about everything, because that means you can put anything in the show. I think that was one of the magical parts of Seinfeld, is that because it wasn't about anything specific, they had the freedom to discuss anything. And it's why it lasted so long. How many seasons did Seinfeld last? 10 seasons? 11 seasons? It's like 11 seasons. I think it was 11 seasons. I'm not sure. There are very few shows that last that long. Like Frasier lasted 11 seasons, right? Cheers was up there also, I think 10, 11 seasons. So you'll find that certain shows have that kind of, when they have that chemistry, and Seinfeld definitely had that chemistry. So we're kind of like the Seinfeld author show, basically. And then he's just did a new movie, right? Unfrosted. We have to watch that. It's supposed to be really good. Seinfeld. Where? Duke. Oh, at Duke, he gave the commencement speech? Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. I have to hear it. And what else have I discovered recently? Oh, I've just discovered Frederick Bachman. So I put the little speech up on the mob. Frederick Bachman, for those of you who do not know, if you've seen the ads for A Man Called Otto with Tom Hanks, that's based on a book called a man called Ove, or OVE, Ove, because Bachman is Swedish. So he's very well known, like in the traditional book world. So that's where Frederick Bachman comes from. So he's like really, really established. He's very well known. I looked up his book on Amazon, and it has 197,000 reviews. His book. I was like, whoa, when did this happen? So he's very well established, and I just discovered him basically.
How many amazing authors?
There's so many out there, yeah, that I don't know about. Also because I kind of move in the indie world, but there's so many amazing authors out there in the traditional publishing world. And so A Man Called Ove is the basis for A Man Called Otto. And I didn't watch that movie, I didn't see it, but I hear it did really well. But I'm going to read the book because I like rather read the book. So we'll see. And that's Frederick. And so there's a whole interview that I'm going to watch, and I'll put it up. I'll put the link up on the mob too. So for those of you that like to watch authors being interviewed, he's really funny though. As you can tell from that little short speech, he's really funny. Might have one to recommend. Need to read the. Okay, so when you read it, Heather, and if you like it, then put it up. L3 it. Connie, thank you for the Seinfeld 9 seasons. That was a long time. Wow. I think what makes it feel so much longer is that it went into syndication, and so I would watch it every night when I would get home from work way back in those days. And they played on here in New York. They played on Channel 11 at 11:30 every night. You would get Seinfeld in syndicated form. So yeah. Okay. How many people we got? Let's see what time it is. But the time is just racing. I don't understand how. I think we enter like a slipstream when we come into these things, and it's like time just compresses. But so let me get into these updates really quick, and so we can just get to the questions. And today is a sad day for Audrey. Has not put up a question on episode 119, so she's gonna have to double it up for episode 120. So, okay, so updates for those of you that are keeping track of what's happening. Fated Fury, which is the kind of secret.
Not secret.
It's not a secret. It's not that secret anymore. But it's what are we calling it? Urban fantasy romance? Not romantasy. Don't start.
Urban fantasy romance.
Urban fantasy romance. Although I haven't really written much romance. The urban fantasy romance story that I'm starting a new book. I'm in the middle of it right now. I'm actually almost literally in the middle of it. It's Fated Fury. The series is called Fate of the Dark Mages, and the art will be opening sometime next week. I'm looking at the calendar. Sometime next week, the art will be open. Yeah. So that's the first thing that's happening. If you haven't left a review for Blur, please do, because it's wide, needs as much love as it can get. Right now, it's sitting at 70. That's great. 70 reviews. So 72 reviews. So that's amazing. So if you haven't left a review for Blur, please do. It helps with the social proof. Yes, you spelled his name wrong. God, it's not Titchard. It's Richard. But that's okay. We kind of got it. Yeah, we kind of figured it out. What else we got? Oh, Rule of the Council, the Chirp promo. So every so often, who is Chirp affiliated with?
BookBub.
BookBub. So BookBub hands out these promos, or they kind of pick things to promote. And every so often they pick our audiobooks. So this time they picked out Rule of the Council, and they put it at $4.99. So if you haven't heard, it's Kevin, Collins. So it's our fantastic narrator. If you haven't heard the Rule of the Council audiobook, you should. You're gonna have a real treat. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Welcome, Richard. Or if you want to be Titchard today, you can. What else? Oh, the newsletter. I don't know how many of you are on the newsletter. I would hope all of you are on the newsletter. So, but if you're not on the newsletter, there's a post that I put up yesterday that is has a link to join our newsletter. If you join the newsletter, you get, because Dolly puts out a lot of stuff in the newsletter. You don't miss when the new books drop. Dolly puts out a post on the newsletter right away, so you don't miss it. Let's just say you don't get the post in the groups. You'll get a newsletter. You'll get an email with the post. So sign up to the newsletter. If you're in the MoB, you should be in the newsletter. It should help. It'll help you just kind of keep up to date with everything, you know? Oh, look, there's a link. Excuse me. Wow. Must be the AC. It's doing that to me. Here's the chirp link. That's the Rule of the Council audiobook. So go get that if you haven't gotten it yet. R and T are next to each other, Connie. It does happen. Yes. Don't worry about it. I have big fingers and small keyboards. Happens to me all the time. Where do you sign up for, Amos? The newsletter? The link will be coming up shortly. Yes. So, this is gonna be, yeah, it's coming up now. Dolly's gonna get you the link, and then boom. Okay. For those of you that are big John Kane fans, Blur, and so the John Kane series was, I don't want to say stalled. It was on hiatus for 10 years. God, I cannot believe. Here's an e-news link. Here's a link, Amos, right there. I can't believe that series was paused or on hiatus for 10 years. But the next book is already being worked on. I already have the outline for it, so I'll be working on it. It'll be coming out soon, really soon. So I want to keep you guys kind of in the loop, because it's not going to be another 10 years for the second book. Rico, thank you so much for being here and visiting. Have a great weekend. And if you have to bail, you have to bail. But go. I saw the picture. It was great of the two glasses. I'm glad you're having a great time. Enjoy your vacation or your travel, wherever you are or wherever you're going to be. Enjoy. But thanks for popping in and saying hello. Have a great weekend. So John Kane book 2 is coming out. I want to say soon. I don't want to give an exact date yet, because I have the story. It's outlined. It's in my head. I just have to like deconstruct it a little bit and get it out. So there's a smooth transition from Blur to the second book, which is called Stone. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to the cover, though. The cover is going to be amazing. And right after that is the next Monty and Strong. And that one's going to be... Okay, so I've tried to find a way to encapsulate Monty and Strong number 24, right? 24 and 24. It's basically John Wick meets Monty and Strong. So it's basically... There's a part when John Wick gets cast out, like he gets excommunicated or excommunicado, like they cast him out of the assassin world, and no one can help him, no one can assist him. He's basically on his own. Outcast, which is Monty and Strong 24, and just for the record, Monty and Strong was around before John Wick. But Outcast is basically kind of the same thing happening to Monty and Strong. As a result of what I'm gonna give a little bit away. As a result of what Dex has done with appropriating the Golden Circle, right? It's had repercussions. And so since they haven't been able to act directly against Dex, they're going to pick Monty and Strong as a target. And so the Grand Council, the larger council, right, which kind of oversees all the councils, declares them outcasts, which means they can't get help. They can't use neutral zones. They can't go to the Randy Rump. They become an enemy of the Dark Council. They can't go to the Hellfire. It's basically they're the persona non grata everywhere, except in places where outcasts are welcome. Welcome, Michelle. And so that's going to kind of be the story for that book, and it's going to be really, really interesting. So we'll see where that goes. And that's book 24. And it's going to be a lot of fun, because when everyone turns their back, that's when you see who your real friends are, who your real family is, who's really beside you. I'm going to take this link off. So don't forget to sign up to our e-newsletter. Here's the link. Just go there and you can sign up. Amos, did you get it, Amos? I hope you got it. I'm taking it off. Boom. So awesome when it's that instantaneous. Okay, so those are the updates. That's what we're up to. So first of all, any questions about Immortal or Blur? And then we're gonna get a little bit into the challenges of writing urban fantasy romance. And if you have questions about other things that are related, like the branding questions and ideas and other things that may come up to you, feel free to just drop them into the feed. Then we'll discuss them. So writing urban fantasy romance. So the first hurdle was I wrote the description for the cover and the book, and then Dolly points out, "Where's the romance?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Where's the romance? It's there. It's in the subtext." She's like, "There's no romance in the subtext." And she was right. I wrote the description the way I write all my descriptions, which is basically urban fantasy. So then I thought, okay, how do I convey this the romance part in the urban fantasy romance? And so how did I do it in the description? I did it. It was subtle, right?
Yes.
Was it too subtle to notice?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
We can look at it again.
We might have to. But yeah. So I had to kind of. So let me just preface this with, this is not my usual world of writing, including romance into things. I don't usually include romance into writing. So I had to sit back and kind of look at this from how would I introduce a romantic element into a story that's mostly urban fantasy, but not turn off my urban fantasy readers, but also kind of welcome and invite readers who might appreciate some romance into my description. And it was work, because you can't go too much one way and you can't go too much the other way. It's this kind of weird balance you have to strike so that it can be both interesting and alluring at the same time. Yeah. That was tough. I want to tell you, it was a challenge. And one of the reasons why I'm even writing Faded Fury is because it's a challenge. And it's always good to kind of push yourself out of those comfort zones. And so Faded Fury for me is it's gonna be it's first of all, it's short. So to give you an idea, I think I'm only going to 40K, and you may be like, but why? Trust me when I tell you 40K is a lot for me in writing romance anything. So 40K is a lot. But also because I wanted it to be a little leaner. I want these stories to be the kind of stories that you can sit down and read, and it doesn't take you days, that you can kind of read it in an afternoon and then go to the next one. So I'm going to make this a substantial series. And this one is also going wide. So you guys, this is a heads up. Once this book comes out, I'll make sure you all know that it's out and it's available, because it is going wide. It's like, we're going to really push this one to go wide. Also because we're testing the whole wide thing, But I want to make sure that the mob can get it at a mob price. So that's one thing that I always want to make that available to the mob. But this one will be going wide. But it's not going to be like Mountain Strong. It's going to be really, what do we have Blur at? $3.99?
Yes.
So Blur is $3.99. And so we're going to kind of keep it around there. But we do want to do mob. We want to do it wide because we're going to test all the markets with this one. And because it's kind of a romance book, it's better if it's wide, because it's not so niche as Mountain Strong. And so we'll see. Everything's a test. When it comes to these things, everything's a test. Everything's like, will this work? Will that work? It's a lot of testing, a lot of feeling things out. Who knows? We'll see. All I can do is write the best story that I can write, and then we'll take it from there, Yeah, so that's the whole Faded Fury thing. I think I got all the details out for Faded Fury. So going from Faded Fury to writing the next, I call them Blur stories because it's been Blur for so long, but the next John Kane story is going to be a little darker. Also because it's wide, and it's also in a different genre. It's a thriller genre, which is not, so there's no magic, and that's weird for me too because I'm so used. Dolly kids me with about this, but for me, it's like runic everything, right? So if it's a runic, let's see, I'll put it. It's a runic weapon. It's a runic cast. It's a runic this. It's a runic that. It's like the catchphrase for everything, right? So it's a matter of removing something that I rely on to force me to use something else to make the story work. So that's what John Kane is doing. Yes, Mary Beth, we're gonna have to invoke Green. I don't know if it's Greenland or Iceland. It's been, I think it's Iceland because it's been so long since Gideon Shepherd, but I believe it's Iceland, and that's another one that it's gonna be. That one is even harder than John Kane because that is a straight thriller. There's no martial arts, no mystical, no. It's all tech and weaponry, and it's really just and intelligence and things like that. So it's really more leaning towards straight thriller. But I had a lot of fun with Gideon Shepherd, and and the sheepdogs, and that was a lot of fun. There's also I don't think I've told anyone this, but we're gonna go back to space soon. So back to the Blackjacks and the Dread Warlock and Daisy and Frost and Jack and the whole crew. So that is also in the works, and that's gonna be a lot of fun because honestly, the sci-fi, I don't write sci-fi, obviously, right? But honestly, sci-fi, the one story that I have that's sci-fi is what we consider a passion project. It's really kind of like something that I do mostly for me. I just write those stories because I enjoy them. It's my sci-fi nerd slash geek, coming out, and I'm just having a fun blast writing a short because they're short. The novellas, so they're 30K, they're really short, and I'm just having a fun sci-fi adventure with my sci-fi crew and the Dread Warlock. So it's really kind of something I do as a passion project. So I don't put deadlines on it. I just write it, and I'm currently working on the second book, which is called Death Dancers, and that's going to be coming out eventually, soon, TM, but eventually it's coming out. Mark says, I like the mysticism of the John Kane novels. Yeah, it's different. It's more rooted in martial arts and in Asian culture. And it's basically John Kane is moving in that world. So it's not like that world is there and he knows all. He's kind of jumping into that world, and he's somewhat immersed in it. He knows a lot of it. And the fact that he possesses one of the abilities is a real big help to him. But he's gonna have to get the other 4. That's the whole premise. Is there's 5 books. Each book deals with one of the abilities, and he's going to start slowly acquiring each one of those abilities. It's amazing. So he's gonna have to eventually, by the last book, he's gonna have to face off against the heads of the clans and their assassins, and it's gonna be fun. I don't know if it's gonna continue past 5 books. We'll see. We'll see if even John Kane makes it. We'll see. Kitty, your name is showing. Yeah, it's showing. I love sci-fi. I mean, I grew up on sci-fi, right? I mean, most of us did. Most of us, Star Wars, Star Trek, Space 1999, 19. Oh my God, that was a great show, Space 1999. Lost in Space. So there's so much sci-fi that I grew up with that no longer exists. No longer exists or no longer is out there anymore, right? But yeah, I grew up watching sci-fi, reading sci-fi. It was just everything. I had a lot of sci-fi influence. How I didn't end up writing sci-fi, I don't know. It's just something that happens. It's the way your brain is wired, But I loved, and then I went to the hard sci-fi too. Like I read a lot of Asimov. I read a lot of Heinlein. I read a lot of Arthur C. Clarke. I went to like the foundational sci-fi where it all started, and I really enjoyed that. And so I guess it's just a matter of it all becomes what they say, grist for the mill. It all becomes part of what makes you who you are. But my sci-fi stories, for me, it's I always go back to how a sci-fi story should make you feel is how I felt when I sat in that theater watching Star Wars for the first time. There should be that kind of sense of wonder, that like, whoa, you know, but at the same time, it should immerse you in it, and you should, and sci-fi, unlike let's say urban fantasy or anything else, sci-fi is that genre that lets you push the envelope way out. You could create anything in sci-fi as long as you have a plausible kind of reason for it. Sci-fi lets you just go out there and do anything, basically. Yeah. Yeah, so it's weird, right? It's so, and like Michelle, it's like some people like, and that's the whole. That's why I have Star Wars and Star Trek with Monty and Simon, because Monty is a definite Star Trek, and Simon is definitely Star Wars. And there are a lot of people who are like that, who are only one or the other. There are many of us who are both and all sci-fi, because I love all sci-fi. But there are people who can only do Star Wars, and some people who can only do Star Trek. Very different in terms of the theme. One is space opera, like Star Wars is considered space opera. Star Trek is considered like futuristic sci-fi. It's very different. But yeah, so Michelle can't do robots, right? So it's Star Wars, but you can do droids. So it's like, it's interesting. It's an interesting way how our brains work, and maybe how we were influenced growing up. It's all kind of a big mix. And sci-fi, there's a reason why sci-fi and fantasy are kind of always linked together, because sci-fi is such a large genre, and it kind of bleeds into the fantasy genres as well. And then you have like dystopian or dark sci-fi, and you have things like, what was the name of that movie? Oh my god, I'm thinking now. There was a movie where maybe it was called The Black Hole. There was a movie where the ship was near the event horizon of a black hole, and you had these little kind of dumpy droids that floated in the air, right? And they were right by the edge. They were right at the edge of the black hole, and it was kind of like, this ship is going to. The premise was that the ship could survive the black hole, or was going to go through the black hole. It was a great movie. But it was kind of like a sleeper hit. So yeah, but it was very dark, and the story itself was a dark story, and there are plenty of yeah, it was a little freaky, Laura. Yeah, and the guy who ended up being the villain really ended up being a villain. Yeah, we're gonna go through the black hole, and everybody was gonna die. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm watching this as a kid, so it's like, yeah. Bye, Connie. Take care. It was great to see you. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, the stream it'll be there. Black Hole Disney. Yeah, it was a Disney film. It's called A Black Hole. But it was a little weird. And then those dumpy robots, one was good, but one was bad. I remember it so vividly because I had the toys. I had the two robots, and one was good, and then there was one that was really bad. Oh, it wasn't a Carry On film. It's not a Disney film. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's so long ago, I do not remember who made it. So there's things like that. And then later on now in sci-fi, you have things that are much darker. There's video games that are darker, and Dead Space was a fantastic video game, creepy as heck, and it was like, sci-fi. But and then that's when you get into that realm of aliens, where you're on a ship, and there's this alien, and it wants to kill you, but it wants to use you as an incubator first. And it's like, what? And you're watching this as a young, as a kid, and you're like, this is scary. And you're in the ship with the crew, and everybody's like, Anyway, that's sci-fi. Sci-fi can have its really warm side, and it can have its and just like urban fantasy. Well, urban fantasy has a tendency to be on the darker side. Sci-fi can run the gamut. Sci-fi can go from really amazing Star Wars, Star Trek, and then go all the way to the other side, to aliens and scariness. And that's just the way it is. Terminators, right? So Terminators, you got these things coming from the future to take out this person in the past, to change the timeline in the future. It's like, so you got, Terminators and robots and, time travel. And that's sci-fi. Sci-fi is like that. I mean, and then you get a little bit of Doctor Who in there, right? Because is Doctor Who fantasy or is Doctor Who sci-fi? And the answer is yes. It's, Doctor Who can run almost everything. And it's like that. And that's how sci-fi sucks you in for 20 minutes. Exactly. Jules Verne is a great introduction to sci-fi. You were very lucky to have that, because he was so forward thinking that the things that he wrote as fantasy and sci-fi are now things that you can experience today. Even Star Trek, when they had the communicators that you, if you told someone you had a device where you could speak to anyone on the planet from where you were, right, your cell phone, like back when we were little, those are communicators. We make our own communicators and speak to, and we speak really loudly, but we were talking to our friends from Earth to the ship to wherever, communicators. And now we actually have real communicators. It's amazing. But that's what fantasy does, right? Oh yeah, there is a Doctor Who new season. There's a new Doctor Who season. So yes. Lovecraftian is a little different though, because Lovecraftian is specifically dark. It's intended to be dark because H.P. Lovecraft was decidedly horror in most of his writings, right? And then with Cthulhu, it's definitely monsters and the darkest side of sci-fi, right? So steampunk isn't always dark. Steampunk is the genre that kind of melds different kinds of technology, steam, and substitutes it for other, like electricity. So that's where you get a lot of steampunk. But Lovecraft is more, it's darker. It's introducing you to like old gods and scariness. And like, if you're gonna read Lovecraft as a child, I read Lovecraft. It was scary. It was really creepy. It's not something I would recommend kids read. But we didn't have that kind of like. First of all, my mom didn't know what I was reading, and second of all, I was gonna read it anyway. So, but Lovecraft is really dark and primal. Like Chris is saying, Lovecraft is primal. You think the designer of the original flip phone was a Trekkie? I believe it. Either the person was a Trekkie or was influenced by Star Trek enough to say, "Hey, why don't we really create this?" So yeah. Oh yeah, and Dick Tracy, like Kitty is saying, Dick Tracy had the two-way watch, right? And now I think those watches actually exist now. I know I had a watch where I could get phone calls, so it was basically the two-way watch that was only seen in comic strips, and now it's a reality. So Dick Tracy is another one where it was way ahead of its time, Okay, let me jump on these right away. We got questions. Let's get to the questions. Hold on. And again, sad face because Audrey it's a sad day. Audrey has broken her streak. Okay, here we go. Chris Mendoza. I can't see the feed, but I can see the I'll be able to see it when I go back. Chris asks, have you ever seen a ghost? Oh, let's see. I'm gonna say that my life has had many paranormal events in it, without going into too much detail. But yeah, definitely I've seen things that are not easily explained, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Chris. That's a great question. I think if I ever write a ghost story, if I ever write horror, I said I would never write romance, and here I am writing a romance. So I also said I would never write horror, and it's not that much of a stretch from urban fantasy to horror, actually, because they're closely related. So yeah, if I ever write a horror story, I'll go into these ghost things. Do you have to go, man?
What makes it horror?
What makes it horror?
I mean, you already have people being decapitated and stabbed and gutted. So
the horror, I think the aspect of horror, or the aspect that makes a story horror, is that it's trying to instill fear in the reader somewhere. Fear and a sense of dread or suspense. So it's kind of like, it's so scary you can't look away. That kind of feeling, Like some people I know when people go to scary movies, they go to get scared. Not, that's the whole purpose of going to a scary movie, is to get scared. Whether it's a jump scare, or the guy's under the bed, or he's behind the door, and none of the victims don't know that he's there. You hear people screaming at the screen, "He's there! Don't go there! Don't run there! No!" That kind of thing. So I think that's the difference between that and urban fantasy, is that horror is trying to scare the person, trying to scare the reader, to instill a feeling of dread and fear in the reader. But you guys, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on what's the difference between urban fantasy and horror, because like Dolly said, they have similar elements for sure. All right, Anthony Hudson asks, when was the last time you read something so good that it pissed you off? Like you said to yourself, who is this genius spawn of an overly ripe postmortem llama who wrote this? Wow, let's see. I don't think I've read anything like that recently. The last story that I read that was really, really, really good was, again, it's funny because it was sci-fi. It was Martha Wells. Her Murderbot series was excellent. That is really an excellent series, and it's short. That's one of the things I really enjoyed about it. That it wasn't short. It didn't feel short, but it was short. It was like 100 pages. Each story was 120, 150 pages. She wrote really lean, and she wrote so well. And I was like, yeah, when I read that story, I was like, I need to start writing sci-fi again because she is really good at this. And so that kind of inspired me to start thinking about getting back to the Blackjack Chronicles and writing sci-fi. But I didn't call her a genius spawn of an overly ripe postmortem llama, but she's really good. I think she's won numerous awards for her writing because she's that good. All right, Warren asked, that's great question, Anthony, and Chris. Warren asks, how many M&S books will we get before George R.R. Martin finishes the next Game of Thrones book? Wow, that's a question that has no answer from my end because I'm going to keep writing. George R.R. Martin, I don't know if he's even thinking of finishing the whole series. I don't know if Game of Thrones is going to be completed. And the way he writes the way he writes. And so you can't really rush his process. He takes his time. He writes, and he also writes huge, writes big, 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 epic books. And that takes long. So he's going to write the way he's going to write. I don't know. I mean, I could always, if you want me, I can go call him and see if he answers. And then, and then we can have a conversation about his writing speed. We'll see. Rico says, as far as I'm concerned, the M&S books can go on forever. But do you have anything in mind for your next bigger project? Actually, I do. And I can't share it right now because Dolly will kill me because she's always saying, don't start a new series. So, but definitely, and I'll talk it over with her. And it's probably going to be a spinoff from M&S because it's the most logical thing. And it might involve the young ones, the Destruction and Mayhem as main characters in those stories. If you don't know who Destruction and Mayhem is, you're not a Patreon member. CC and Peanut. So, yeah, they're in the books, but they may not know that they're called Destruction and Mayhem or the Mayhem Twins. So, I think they may be a good vehicle for telling stories and that may have legs, like Monty Strong, that may be long, and actually have it that they start off the series as young girls, and as the series progresses, they get older as it goes on. So it'll be fun to kind of do that as well. So we'll see. It's a possibility. We'll see. All right, I'm going back into the room. Those are all the questions. Thank you, guys. You guys are amazing. You guys, you don't know how awesome it is to have these questions. It's fantastic. All right. No horror. Yeah, John Corwin has the Cthulhu series, Michelle. It's a great series. So yeah, I can appreciate it. I don't know if I can get into it. A while ago, about a year ago, I was kind of toying with the idea of writing a horror story. But if I'm gonna do a horror story, I think I would write it a short story first, just to see if I could capture the feel of a horror story. Because I grew up reading horror like crazy. I read The Stand. I wish I wrote The Stand. I read The Stand twice back to back. And if you know how big The Stand is, I read that in 9th grade. So first of all, I'm really old. Second, The Stand is like this big. There were no Kindles back then, so I had to carry the actual book. It was huge. Yeah. So I'm huge into horror. I don't watch it anymore because I just put it like this. I've lived so much that anything that anyone can come up in horror is not going to scare me. I don't get scared in horror movies. Horror movies don't do anything for me. But a horror story, I think, can touch upon certain fears that it's a more visceral fear that a movie or film can't capture. You know, The Stand was amazing, yeah, and so to think that I read The Stand and then later on I got to live through the pandemic, and that was very similar to The Stand. So yeah, let's see what we're saying here. No horror. What makes you think what Monty and Simon go through isn't? Yeah, it is horror, Kitty. On a very deep, visceral level, it's horror. It's just a matter of how it's conveyed to the reader, you know, on what's focused on. Because the monsters that they face and the situations that they encounter, if you switch the perspective just a bit, maybe turn it a little, it can easily become a horror story. Easily. Yeah, I agree. Warren says, "Oh, I appreciate your policy. I try to get the books out, yeah, as quickly as I can." Like Frederick Bachman says, being a writer is the best way to get paid for being insane. And I've always had, this is my opinion, that all authors on some level are slightly insane, and that while they're still lucid, they're writing stories. But after a while, they lose their lucidity and they just become straight insane. And these are the people that are insane later on, talking to themselves or talking to people that aren't really there. They're talking to their characters. That's really it. Let's see. Monty has to wear gray. Yeah, that would be a horror story. No Meat for Peaches. Not only would that be a horror story, that would be a short story, because yeah, that would be a problem. Running out of, yeah. See, Joe, another one. Running out of Death Wish or Sorrow. Those are horror moments. Running out of Death Wish and no Zegnosis. Those would be problems. Yeah, major problems. Short horrors, because the story wouldn't last very long. I'm still reminded of the review. Remember that review I told you of the, why don't you just let Peaches destroy the villain and then they can just relax for the rest of the story? A reviewer said that, and I said that's a great idea. Like, to start a story, I think I might start a story like that, where Simon proposes, why don't we just let Peaches take care of this situation, and then Monty starts giving him all the reasons why that's not a good idea, and then kind of roll into the story that way. Yes, Kitty, talking to oneself is insane, but it's acceptable, especially when you're an author. Talking to yourself is called working out the dialogue. That's basically all it is, for sure. But yeah, so those are the things that I'm kind of working on, and the directions that we're going in. You know, it's kind of going into these different directions, and I'm trying to, and I've been trying to do this for a while, but I'm trying to kind of narrow the series in a way. Like, there's always going to be Monty and Strong. I don't want to go into too many tangents, because I want it to be more stories that kind of feed off Monty and Strong and grow from there, you know? But it's hard, because I have these ideas, and every time you have an idea, so here's what I do. I leave it alone for a while. And if the idea keeps bothering me and bothering me and bothering me, after a while I realize, okay, this story's got to get written. But sometimes I have ideas and they just, like, you know, flashes in the pan. They come up and then I let them go and then they disappear. Other stories, that the ones that don't disappear, the ones that nag me and, you know, keep me up at night and, you know, give me ideas during the day, those are the ones that turn into books. Those are the ones that turn into stories. So as you can see, I have a lot of ideas that are naggy. You know, like right now, Fated Fury, I really was like, I'm not going to do this. This is just too much work. And fantasy romance, come on, that's not me. So here I am writing Fated Fury because the idea wouldn't quit. So you go. And then I read Sarah J. Maas, and I was like, oh, that's actually not a bad way of doing it. And then Gail Carriger, which is even better. It's like, hey, that actually works. That makes sense, and it's a good story, and it's interesting. And so here I am writing urban fantasy romance, because I will not, for the life of me, call it romantasy ever, unless I have to. But yeah, so that's where I'm at. So I always say I try never to say never. Like, I'm never gonna do this. I'm never, because, and that's the great thing about writing, is that you could find yourself writing something that you thought you never would write. And if you're willing to do the work, and if you're willing to kind of open yourself to the possibility. For example, Ian Fleming, Mr. James Bond, also wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. You know, and so you can't have two stories more different from each other than those two. It's like, so you have a lot of authors who wrote one thing, and then later on in their life or later on in their writing career, pivoted and wrote something else. And so you have to be open to that. You have to be willing to allow yourself to explore, to not just say, okay, I only write urban fantasy, because it stifles you in a way, it limits you and it pigeonholes you, and you don't want that, because sometimes you're going to get a story that's not urban fantasy. What if you get a straight thriller? Then what? I only write urban fantasies. If there's no magic, I can't write it. So you limit yourself as a writer, and you don't want to do that. Like, that's why I wrote the sheepdog, the Gideon Shepherd story. That's why I initially did Blur, because I wanted to write something that didn't have magic, but kind of had the mysticism of the old Eric von Lustbader stories. I grew up reading those stories too, So you have to, as an author, you need to leave yourself open. Now, I'm not saying go write in every genre possible, because that's hard to do, one, and it's going to scatter you. You're not going to be able to develop yourself in any one genre if you say, I'm going to write in every genre. So pick a genre, write in it, but allow yourself the possibility, the opening to write in something else, or to take elements of the genre that you're currently writing in and put it into another genre. There's this great genre that exists right now called slipstream, which is, it's a mishmash of genres. And, people had thought they invented something new. No, slipstream's been around for a long time. And basically, slipstream is kind of like taking different genres and kind of combining them and adding different dimensions. And it's like, and it becomes its own genre in that way. But as an author, you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to do urban fantasy romance and drop some romance in there without it being complete romance. And same thing with I bring magic into space with the Blackjacks. So it's a space sci-fi with magic. So what do you call that genre? Is it sci-fi? Is it fantasy? Is it sci-fi fantasy? What is it exactly? Because you have magic and sci-fi. And you have to be willing to do that and kind of play with it, and be okay with not being exactly this. Allow yourself to be a little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of magic, a little bit of fantasy. Let it play with it and enjoy it, have fun. And the story should be fun. I think most importantly, when I write stories, if it's not fun, if I'm not having fun writing it, it's like, why write it then if you're not going to have fun? Because if I'm not having fun, I'm almost absolutely certain that the person reading it is not going to have fun, because it comes across. It's a strange thing. But as a writer, when you're writing and then the person's reading your work, if you didn't have fun, if you didn't enjoy it, and this is my opinion, I'm not saying this is absolutely how it is, it's my opinion, the reader kind of picks up that you didn't enjoy what you were writing, and somehow or another they kind of like stop. Yeah, Warren, I was reading Blackjack the other day because I'm kind of doing it as research for Death Dancers, and I was having fun. And that book I almost wrote off the seat of my pants. I kind of just flowed with the story because it's just a fun story. And it was basically, I'm just thinking, this is like a D&D story, a D&D in space, And so what would you do here? And what would you do here? What's this creature? What's this? And what's this background and this history and this and that, And that's how Blackjack came about, the Dread Warlock. And Daisy is the sentient ship that I wish every sci-fi movie had, or every sci-fi story had, because she's really smart, but she's in love with the captain, but she's also an AI. So it's this kind of weird mix of like, this is completely inappropriate, but wait, it works. This works. It's the way it needs to be. And it's, it's fun. And again, it goes back to fun, like what Kitty is saying, do what you enjoy. I enjoy the sci-fi stories because it's something I like for myself. And then I share it with you guys because I think you should, you should read it as well. But those are really for me, It's fun. If you're going to do something like that, if you're going to get into anything creative, and like I've always said, all of us have some kind of creativity. It should be something you enjoy, for sure, because then your creativity is going to flourish. It's going to grow. And you're going to be able to express it in a way that impacts other people without you having to force it. And that's what makes it amazing when you enjoy it. Heather saying, I figured out what was writing urban high fantasy about halfway through working on the first book. Yeah, you better find a way to you know, here's the thing about being an author, and this is one of the hardest things I've learned personally. Learning when to ship, learning when to say, okay, it's time to get this book out into the world. That's the hardest part of an author, because you can always polish a sentence. You can always tighten that line up. You could always add another chapter, or you could always cut that chapter and make it trimmer and fix it. And what happens is that you kind of get stuck in this weird trap of the book isn't ready yet. But you've been writing it for 15 years. Yeah, but it's not ready yet. Oh, Audrey, come on, Audrey, a question. You have 5 minutes. A question. Just give me a question right there off the top of your head. Go, Audrey. We don't want to break your streak. Come on. So one of the things that I've encountered this with authors is that, and especially authors who are writing a great project, they're writing a book, and they can't find a way to let go. And it's not that they can't let go, it's that they're in the story or in the world, and they find it difficult to find a resolution. And that's really hard. Endings are hard in stories, right? It's easy to begin. Okay, I won't say easy. It's easier to begin a story. The soggy middle is always a soggy middle. You got to find a way to get through it and, you know, make it so it doesn't become too soggy and too boring and doesn't drag. Wrapping it up at the end is one of the hardest things to do, because you don't want to do it in a way that's not satisfying to the reader, but also that doesn't fulfill the purpose of the story. It has to kind of end the story properly. And so, you know, it's important to know when to end the story. And sometimes that place where you're ending leads to a beginning for the next story. You have to kind of think of it that way. I'm going to end it here, but that gives me room to start something over there. Like Iker started like that. Iker was supposed to die and rule the council, but I couldn't find a way to kill him. It's like, Iker needs to die. And he was supposed to die in that garage with Michigo. He was supposed to die with Chi. She was going to hit him with the lights. This is going to be a dusty Iker. That was it. Iker was supposed to be a pile of dust at the end of that fight. Somehow I was like, nope, he's going to get away and he's going to hang out in the background. And he sat in the background for a while. Even though he got away, he was such a good character that, you know, I'm going to write a short story with Iker, because Iker is just such a good character. And the way he conveys who he is and how he speaks and, you know, how he reacts to things, it's amazing. So let's just give him some adventures of his own. And it became 3 stories, you know? Yeah, he definitely was not ready to go, Kenny. Oh, look, Audrey got to quit. Audrey, you kept your streak alive. All right, here we go. Have I always been okay with heights? Is there an everyday job that you won't do? Okay, I've always been okay with heights. Have you seen the pictures that I put up most recently in the MoB? I've always been okay. I used to play on roofs and on the edge of roofs. Like heights are nothing for me. When I was really young, my mom and my dad, I'm talking really young, like they took me to the Empire State Building and I loved it. I was up on the 88 something floor, the observation deck. Loved it. I absolutely loved it. I love heights. Now it doesn't really affect me. I'm not looking for heights anymore. But back then it was like no big deal. I can do heights. What I wouldn't do, an everyday job that I wouldn't do, I wouldn't work. I don't know if it's considered an everyday job, Audrey, but working on an oil rig. Have you seen what these guys have to do on the oil rig in the middle of the oceans? In the middle of the ocean, of these guys with the oil rig, and they have to get the pipes in, and they got to get chains, and yeah, pass on that. Other than that, I've done pretty gruesome everyday jobs. I've done construction stuff that's like grinding. I've done stuff like that. So I've done every kind of job pretty much growing up. Yeah. I've had the opportunity, which is really amazing, to do all kinds of different work, to know, hey, that's not something I want to do. Or, hey, I'll do more of that. That's not bad. You know, I've done rigging. I've installed signs, and as you saw when I was in those pictures, I was installing a banner on a building. So that it wasn't just me hanging out. I was actually having to work and drill into the building and know how to do that. And you have to drill into the mortar. You can't drill into the brick because you can't replace the brick. And it's like a whole thing. And it was, yeah. And oil rigs are dangerous. Yeah. Oil rigs are people have lost their lives on oil rigs because there are a lot of moving parts, and the parts that are moving usually are heavy. They move fast, and you're dealing with slick surfaces. It can be really, really, really dangerous. Yeah. Okay. Are we almost done?
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't want to go over too much. All right. So our next mob is going to be the last day of the month, the 31st, which is awesome. Our next mob TV. Thank you so much for being here. You guys are incredible. I appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are awesome. Yeah, hammer drills on a ladder suck, Chris. I've done it. I've done it on a ladder, and I've done it on that bosun's chair. So imagine you doing a hammer drill, and you have no leverage because you're just hanging. So if the hammer drill decides to get caught and twist, it takes you, and you just swing with it. Not fun. Not fun. Thank you guys for being here. You guys for finding the new place that we're at, the new page at Ben Peaches Publishing. Thank you guys for making the effort to find it, locate it, be here, and hang out. And just you bring your tea, you bring your coffee, and you're here. Hip replacement. Hope everything goes well, Mark, and that your recovery is a speedy one. And if you have to do therapy or any kind of PT afterwards, that it's easy, and then you can get back to walking easily without any kind of issues. I want to wish you all a great, great weekend. Have fun. Enjoy your day. Go out, touch grass. Go out and, spend some time in the sun. It's really important. And Richard, out. You guys are awesome. So the 3 B's: be kind, be unstoppable, and be uncommon. You guys are amazing. Have a great, great weekend. I'll see you on the 31st. And between then, I'll see you in the room. I'll pop in. I'm always there. The mods are always watching. Always watching. So, but we're there. And remember, it's a safe space for everyone to be there. So have a great rest of the day. Dolly, say bye.
Bye, guys. Have a great weekend.
All right, guys. Take care. Oh, wait. The music. The music. 1 to 7. Go. The first 10 people. 1 to 7. We still have 19 people. So pick a number 1 to 7. Just type it in, and we'll pick a track to close out with. Boom, 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 boom. There we got 4. Bye, Joe. 8, 5, 7, 3. No repeats yet. 5. I think it's gonna be 5. Because 5 has 2 already. No, 7 has 2 also. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. 2 more. 2 more numbers, people. And then we'll close it out. If not, we'll have to do a tiebreaker. 7. Which one do we want? Picking 7. All right. Here we go, guys. We're closing it out. Here it is. Have a great weekend.